Homegrown Radio.
Welcome back. This is Homegrown Farm, and we are doing the series of the Food for Thought that we recently begun. It is a very exciting program where we're talking all things crops, all things farming, subsistence or large-scale farming, and all things breeding of animals in a humane manner. This morning we are going to be talking about alfalfa hay, and as usual, Musa is with me. Musa is our horticulturist. He's the person that we go to for knowledge and in-depth know-how in terms of the crops as well as the animals. So we are very lucky on Homegrown Farm that we have such great expertise. How are you? It's raining outside, so we're sitting indoors.
Perfect. No, rain's a farmer's friend. So.
But we have our seed here. So we work with seed to plant. So as you see here, we've got the seed. It's green because of the preservative. Mm-hmm. And then we've got our Lucerne. So today we're talking about Lucerne, or what is called in North America, alfalfa hay. Yeah. Right. So we just want to share with our audiences the importance of why we went into alfalfa hay and how to work with it. It's not an easy thing. Mm-hmm. What is your understanding of alfalfa hay?
Well, my understanding is we picked it mainly because it is a legume. Legumes are the family of plants where you have peas, beans, peanuts, all of those. But the reason we use those ones is because they are higher in protein than most other fodder.
And we use that because we have animals. We have goats, sheep, and rabbits.
Yeah.
And we use alfalfa hay or Lucerne hay to supplement feeding. Feeding, as you know, is very costly, mm-hmm. and especially in the continent where everything just costs so much because of importing and so on, and also just the scarcity of space to grow stuff. It makes it easier to, if you've got some hay that you can supplement for your animal feeding. So the main purpose of our growing alfalfa hay is, one, to displace the amount of grass that is in the farm, which would require us to cut, and cutting needs labor, mm-hmm. and it also needs fuel, diesel, and it needs machinery. So instead of us cutting grass and just sending that grass to throwing that grass away or using it for animal bedding, we decided that we'd rather grow alfalfa hay, mm-hmm. or Lucerne hay, so that we can supplement feed our animals during the winter season. So we dry green it. Mm-hmm. So with very little knowledge on Lucerne, we went into it because we just felt, what's the main thing that we can use to grow our hay that is also perennial? Mm-hmm. And you got a lot of knowledge about this legume, if you can just share with us.
Well, first and foremost, the advantage is that it is perennial, which means it will come back next year. It does flower, it does seed, so you can dedicate spaces on the property, and we will be dedicating spaces here on the farm where we will be growing this perennially, and cutting it and drying it and making the hay, as we had said. But the reason we want to use this specifically is because it supplements our animals with protein, and protein is one of the macronutrients that you need on a farm. It helps your animals grow big quickly.
It's healthy.
It is. Rather than processed feeds, which they do have their place, they do have their functions. Mm-hmm. Processed feeds, we like it a bit more organic here at Homegrown. If we can grow it ourselves and do it ourselves, we prefer to go that way. We grow it because it has the added advantage of being what is called green manure.
Green manure.
So if there are any Lucerne that we don't use, or any Lucerne that gets tossed by the wayside, or degraded, or infected with something, or it's just not up to our standards, we can dig it back into the soil, and that will increase nitrogen back into the soil, and then we can repurpose that patch for growing our other crops, such as spinach, onion, sweet potato, or whatever it is.
Yes.
It can make that space more fertile for the next crop. So it's a win-win. So it's either you get Lucerne out, or if you don't and you have to scrap it, you have fertile ground out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's various patches that we use to grow the Lucerne. So, and we also rotate the patches after 2 years. Mm-hmm. One of our biggest challenges, and I'm sure many farmers will concur, is that the big challenge with growing lucerne is the weeds. So you want to also then harvest your lucerne at a certain level so that it becomes profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, Musa, you will know that just a 25 kilogram of seeds, which is this product here. It looks green at the moment because of the preservative. 25 kilograms of this is 2,600 rand including VAT. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Right? Now, the challenge with many farmers is that they would mostly harvest their lucerne before it gets to seed, which means you need that so that you can start feeding your animals.
Yes.
So you dry it. You have to dry it, by the way. You start feeding your animals and therefore saving feed costs, saving on feed costs and giving them that good nutrient. However, the challenge with that is that you're not giving the lucerne a fighting chance to get to seed so that it can pop its seeds to the ground and then displace the weeds that are adjacent to it. There's some weeds you'll see in the close-ups that some of these weeds totally displace the lucerne while the lucerne is growing. The advantage is that when your lucerne is already in situ and it has established its roots, it cannot be displaced by another weed when it's already at least this tall. It therefore cannot be displaced. But whilst they're still little seedlings, they are easily displaced by weeds. So what it means then for the farmer is that you've got to go in there and weed very early. Go and dig out those weeds.
And front
it's
heavy.
laborious.
The work is front heavy, but once it's
time
done,
consuming and laborious, and it's and means that you pay a little more on labor. So it all sort of balances itself out. But if you can nail the weeding out early in the early stages, that seedling phase, then you'd have your good crops of lucerne. But many farmers would agree that it's not easy.
We'll be experimenting with various methods of getting our lucerne established a bit quicker. But yes, they're not ruderal plants. What ruderal means is they are quick to take up space. It's stuff like your grasses and your weeds, your plants that won't be coming back next year. So they'll grow quick, flower quick, drop seeds quick, and that's done. But once lucerne is established, it stays. So it's slow to start, but at the finish, it sticks around. It's actually pretty hard to get rid of once it's there.
Right.
And established,
And the roots are very long. So here, what we've done here, we've plucked out a plant. This was actually one plant. It grows quite long. It's grows up to about 2 rulers
about
length.
60 centimeters.
That's about 60 centimeters.
If you let it go.
We usually take it up to 45 centimeters and then we start harvesting. We dry green. That's another very important thing that many farmers would agree to, that your lucerne cannot turn yellow. You do not allow it to turn yellow. So what we do is we cut it just about 5 or 10 centimeters from the root. We then take it out into a room, a closed room with ventilation, a room that is, has a roof, of course, with ventilation, and we lay it on netting, and then we turn it over twice a day so that it gets sufficient airflow, top and bottom, and we call dry green. So when it's dry, it must still be green, not yellow or brown. And
for those of you wondering, the reason we do it in a dark room on a net is because we're trying to do 2 things. We're inhibiting photosynthesis, number 1, but number 2, we're also inhibiting fungal growth. So there are spores in the air, so you want that good ventilation so you don't allow those spores to settle on your plants. But the area in which we dry it is also ventilated, so it reduces humidity. So you don't want damp, dark. You want dark, but you want airy as well. And this goes for many other plants that you'd be drying. As your herbs, your rosemary, your whatnot, you'd hang it upside down in a dark space that's well ventilated. So
Absolutely.
that's how we go about drying our lucerne.
And another very critical aspect about feeding your lucerne to, especially your ruminants like your goats, your sheep, and even rabbits, is that because goats eat to no a point of no return. Goats will eat themselves to death. You want to make sure that they don't overeat, so that they get something called bloating. So young Lucerne can be very dangerous on goats, on the ruminants such as goats and sheep. So you want to make sure that your those animals are not eating that Lucerne while it's green. It has to absolutely dry out.
Yeah.
So that is it, I think, on my end,
Yeah.
where Lucerne is concerned.
You know,
and I hope this has
that
been valuable
about
for you.
covers it. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed our plant profile for the day. We'll be doing many more plant profiles. If there are any plants that you'd like us to cover, any plants that we have here on the farm that maybe you want more information about, just communicate that with us
In the comment
comment section, and then we'll get around to it.